Grand rising, grand arrival, grand return. Peace and blessings to the righteous and repentant alike. I am She Sophia of the MariKaNa Band of Indians, and this is Don't Miss It, our weekly news roundup. This is where we go through the news of the week, just the headlines. We have a long format podcast, which is over on our MariKaNa News Network channel on YouTube if you're interested in deep diving into some of the subject topics for each week. Now, the podcast is a few weeks behind, so we can see how some of these stories play out, if they're really big stories or not. And let's just get started. This is the week of March 3rd through March 9th, 2025. So March 3rd, Monday, 2025, ICE raid in California, details get leaked to the public. It's the 180th anniversary of Florida as a state. Kendrick is back at number 1 on U.S. Spotify charts. The FCC is investigating iHeartMedia for pay for play. So basically, the FCC is alleging that on iHeartMedia, they're telling the artists that they have to come and perform at their little shows and get-togethers and stuff for free in exchange for having their music played on iHeart. Dr. Dan list goes viral. This is not a story I really want to cover, but apparently back in the day, there were men who called themselves doctors who provided sexual pleasure for women, and they had their rates and their all the stuff on the cards, and it just makes me think of PBR. God bless our ancestor PBR. Okay. American whites understand why they left Europe. That's coming into the timeline. Ray Pete recommends a carrot salad for balancing out hormones for women, and basically it's the same ingredients as the Japanese salad dressing, like when you go to Benihana's or something like that and you get the carrot salad dressing. That's literally the same ingredients as Ray Pete's carrot salad. Same ingredients. UK media realizes Trump insulted Starmer almost a whole week later. Like, did Trump insult Starmer? Yes, he did. They just realized it. Ukraine signed a deal with the UK for mineral rights on 1/17/25 before Trump inauguration. So how is he going to sign a deal with the US for mineral rights when he already signed a deal with the UK for the mineral rights? Big question. TSMC, which is a semiconductor chip manufacturer, pledges to invest $100 billion in the U.S., which is great. Agricultural tariffs are going to start on 4/2, as well as reciprocal tariffs will start on 4/2. Now, Trump says that this is because he's superstitious, and so he would start it on the 1st, but he's superstitious, so he starts it on the 2nd. And I just saw today, which today is the 12th, March 12th. I just saw today that the UK is going to start their tariffs on April 1st. So they took the bait. $21 billion to help the farmers under Biden was never allocated. So, just so you know, there's many times where funds are earmarked, but then they're never allocated. If the executive branch doesn't allocate the funds, that means they don't get spent. So keep that in mind when we're talking about all this USAID money. The executive branch doesn't have to allocate the funds, and many times they don't. You'll see this over and over again, okay? Dems rigged the Georgia Medicaid bidding. This is the same thing that was announced in New York last week. I start reading or listening to Common Sense by Thomas Paine. Excellent book. I highly recommend you go pull the audio book and listen to Common Sense by Thomas Paine. Trump orders a pause in Ukraine military funding. 7,000 NGOs get 90% of taxpayer money, which is crazy. Kendrick is still on the Billboard Hot 100. So earlier in the day, he was number one on Spotify. Later in the day, we find out he's still on the Billboard Hot 100 as well. Sports teams are mad. They can't bribe Shedeur Sanders. So because his father, Dion, is right there, they can't take advantage of him or low bid him or anything because he knows his value. And this is something that many sports teams are upset at because they're used to being able to bribe black men with funds, with money, in order to get them to sell themselves short. And that's not really something that's going to work moving forward. You're going to have to pay our boys, okay? It comes out that the NIH is holding Zoom calls without security because they complain that they think Doge people are listening in, but they never actually find out who is listening in. And they also don't end the calls, start new secure calls. They never do any of that. So the NIH has been holding insecure meetings for probably a long time. A 19-year-old Hartford, Connecticut student graduates with honors but unable to read and write. I perform an astral diagnosis on a child, which is great. Dems crash out at HUD office in DC, and crash out is really an understatement. They look like children. Ontario Premier to shut off power to U.S. customers. They start threatening this. It's really not a good threat. Zelensky refuses to register Romanian Orthodox Church in Ukraine. As I mentioned many times on my spiritual channel, most of these wars in Europe are over the Orthodox Church. If you look hard enough, you will find that they are persecuting Orthodox Christians. Even the Russia-Ukraine war is over the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, who would not back Zelensky. And then he started persecuting them. Orthodox in Russia is the number one religion. And I've heard people say that they don't think it's over Orthodoxy, but these people are not Orthodox. So I can absolutely see it being over Orthodoxy and how Orthodox people are. It's really horrific. And this is just another example. Seth Rich record will not be released, which is outrageous. Nvidia loses $250 billion in market cap. This is a stock that is going down, but they are also quite criminal and quite corrupt. A Pennsylvania barbershop is paying kids $3 per book to read, which is great while they're getting their haircuts. Black neighborhoods were targeted. It's not like black neighborhoods went down on their own. They were literally targeted, and big, huge roadways, like what's right here beside me, was put through the middle of the different hoods to divide them up, to bring in chaos and confusion and all of that energy where the energy wasn't before. And so that is something that people are starting to realize. OPEC announces a production increase, which will decrease gas prices. Oh my gosh. March 4th, Tuesday, 2025. I'll go a little bit faster. Northern lights to be seen in northern states in America. Omega Phi Psi or whatever, Phi Psi fraternity lies about where the death happened, which is horrible. Arab countries propose $53 billion to rebuild Gaza, which is great. White House tells Trudeau trade war is not, it's not a trade war, it's a drug war because of the fentanyl. And they keep saying this and they keep acting like it's a trade war. No, it's a drug war. We have to stop this fentanyl and these drugs coming across the border. San Francisco is losing too much parking money because they have this war on cars, and now nobody is parking in downtown San Francisco, which is crazy. Dems wear pink to protest the Trump State of the Union. Easy Pass scam text goes viral, which is crazy. 30 LA probation officers face charges over juvenile hall gladiator fight. So they're having these kids, juveniles, fight for money. U.S. Forest Service to begin clearing trees in North Carolina. Kyrie Irving has this horrible ACL injury the other day, and that comes into the timeline because I'm not really a sports person, but we were just talking about Kyrie Irving last week. Trump holds the annual State of the Union. Representative Al Greens gets dragged out. Elon actually wears a suit, which is amazing. And the Vance memes go interplanetary. I mean, the memes just are outrageous, okay? Trump announces a commercial shipbuilding office within the White House. 2 Panama Canal ports are being sold from China to BlackRock. DC announces the removal of Black Lives Matter Plaza. And this is the 26th anniversary of Cruel Intentions, which is one of my favorite movies. All right, Wednesday, March 5th, 2025. U.S. cuts intelligence sharing in Ukraine. Navajo, the word Navajo, the tribe, means thieves with knives. Many publicly celebrate Ash Wednesday, which makes certain people go crazy. Lib mayors testify in Congress on illegals. Missouri AG questions Biden's signatures. This is a thing that goes viral because Biden's signatures on most of the documents are signed using an auto pen, which is an automatic signature, and also explains why Trump always signs his executive orders on camera. You can never say he used an auto pen. Even in his first term, he signed most of the stuff on camera, and I hadn't even thought about that as a potential thing, but Biden, he is using the auto pen, which is not good, okay? Because who was in charge of the auto pen? That's going to come up. Macron addresses Europe to prepare for war, which is crazy. Little Napoleon there. Trump tells Hamas to release the hostages, and this is his last warning. DJ Daniel, who is a young man with brain cancer, I did a whole video on him. He goes to the White House. So he was at the State of the Union. He was made an honorary Secret Service officer. And then on Wednesday, the 5th, he goes to the White House and he gives Trump a big hug. And he's like, I'm going to protect you, which is amazing. White conservatives try to start a race war by pardoning Derek Chauvin. And I'm just going to say this about Derek Chauvin. If you don't understand, I'm hopefully this is my last time having to say this. The reason why in the George Floyd situation that Derek Chauvin was the first officer on the scene is because the people at the corner store where George Floyd went and used the fake $20 bill called him specifically because they knew Chauvin knew Floyd because they worked together at the strip club. And the strip club in Minnesota was laundering money. And so George had taken a fake $20 bill from the strip club that he and Chauvin worked at together and tried to spend it at the store. That's why Chauvin was called specifically. And so he's a money launderer. So maybe he's in jail for the George Floyd thing, but he should be in jail anyway because of the money laundering. I don't know why people don't know this story, but it's like, go and look. It was everywhere unless they scrubbed it all from the internet. A child abducted in Georgia 7 years ago was found alive in Ohio, I do believe. The house is gonna tax college endowments, which they absolutely should be taxed. Macron also announces a peace plan. So he's telling Europe to prepare for war and he's announcing a peace plan. Nuts, okay? Stacey Abrams gets investigated for her many crimes, okay? Miss Mary Mac nursery rhyme has to do with Jesus, and I'll be talking about that on my spiritual channel. Rand Paul suggests rescission of $500 billion, and a rescission is where you rescind, you take back your signature, you take back your approval. You can just cancel your signature, especially in cases of fraud, okay? I'm gonna be talking about that on my financial channel, okay? Trump releases a statement on Ash Wednesday. Zelensky purchases a French bank in January, a $270 billion. He buys a French bank. Where did he get that money from? Oh, how much money did they say we gave? Trump said we gave Ukraine $350 billion, and Zelensky takes $270 billion and buys a bank. NIH Director Francis Collins retired on the 1st of the month of March, and that is a very evil person. I'm not going to go into detail. Doge terminates Obama library lease. I'm just going to say this. The place where Obama picked his presidential library was the most expensive, most controversial place in all of Chicago to try to build this library. It never even got a single brick laid because it was in the middle of a park in a black owned area that was like their only park, and they wanted to cut down all the remaining trees to build this library. And so the trick with that is that if the library never got built, then he never had to open up his records. And so by terminating the lease, I'm sure it's going to have something to do with that. Because we have never seen any of Obama's presidential records because they have all been tied up waiting to go to his presidential library. That's why you have a presidential library. It holds all of your presidential records. And if you don't have a presidential library, then your presidential records don't get released. So that was their trick in order to not to have to release their records. All right. Trump orders the cleanup of D.C. homeless camps. Poland parliament descends into chaos along with Slovakia's parliament. These places are going down fast. Roy Ayers passes away. He's a very famous black musician. Dismembered students are found in Mexico in horrible condition. Like, not only are they dismembered, they're burned. It's really horrible, okay? In Hebrew, Zion, the pictorial version of Zion, Z-I-O-N, which I always say Zion is only Zion in English, and therefore English is the master language, okay? Means wait, work, secure, son. This definitely has to do with this Miss Mary Mack thing. All right. Most people approved of the Trump State of the Union speech. Biden refused to let Elon bring home the stranded astronauts who have been stranded. They were supposed to be there 8 days. They've been there for 8 months. And Biden refused to let Elon bring them home. You have a bill to ban foreign flags on Capitol grounds, which should be automatic. All right. South Korea Air Force accidentally drops 8 bombs in a residential area. Yikes. Wall Street thinks saving money is worth taking lives, people living in squalor, all kinds of stuff. These people need to be rejected. SCOTUS orders the lower courts to fix one of their orders. I'm not going to go into details because the conservatives go crazy on Amy Coney Barrett, and it's just this whole thing. And really, they just said, fix the order, okay? Nonprofit pop-up shell companies is something that was created by Obama. So that's what the whole Stacey Abrams thing is about. It was a pop-up, literally a pop-up nonprofit shell company that was supposed to hold this money and dole it out to other people, which is crazy. All right, so March 6th, this is like long, March 6th, 2025, this is a Thursday. Russia is the key to the West, okay? You can't get to America without coming through Russia, basically. ActBlue faces internal chaos. There's a video of I make a video called Directed Energy. That's where I talk about DJ Daniel. Dems choose your fighter video failed. The Dems are really failing at media, honestly. Florida is going to ban mRNA, and Kennedy is nowhere to be found on this. The White House Easter egg roll tickets become available. CIA layoffs begin. New York Attorney General Letitia James, property disclosures issues, meaning she got a lot of weird stuff going on with her properties. Basically, what she was trying to convict Trump for doing, she herself was doing, meaning she had mortgages with no properties. She had properties with no mortgages. And how do you do that on a civil servant's pay? So, lots of weird stuff, okay? Savi has a ley line almanac. I highly recommend you go and check that out. It's definitely something I'll be adding to my arsenal. Zelensky proposes Europe industrialize in Ukraine, which they can't do because then they would make no money. They could not keep up their stuff. Trudeau cries over tariffs, literally cries tears in public. Dillinger of Office of Special Counsel stops trying to fight to keep his job. because he was planning on getting a bunch of the people who were fired from other departments reinstated. And so he gives up his fight because more than likely he ran out of money. Okay. Trump gives Mexico and Sheinbaum 30 extra days to get things together, especially as it relates to USMCA, which is a treaty that they signed in the first Trump administration. The Maryland Board of Revenue is already talking about a $280 million reduction in income. It's going to be way more than that once all these federal government employees are gone, okay? Because a lot of them live in Maryland, the black ones. Florida farms let fields rot instead of hiring Americans at fair wages. Insane. Perry Stone pushes his Hebrew Bible, which I would not purchase at all ever. SBA offices move out of sanctuary cities, and they promise not to give SBA loans to illegals, which they have been doing. Burgum and Wright send oil tanker to Germany that will actually provide enough heating oil for 100,000 homes for a whole year. And they were sending these oil tankers out weekly. And this is something that Biden stopped, and now they're starting it back up. 100% of school shooters on SSRI antidepressants. You would think someone would talk about that. SpaceX catches a super heavy booster, which is really cool. Part of it does disintegrate, but they did catch the booster again. All right. MariKaNa complains about the Dems, and MariKaNa is a huge Democrat strategist. House Oversight Project says Biden presidency was run by the auto pen, which is, like I said, it's going to keep coming up. Trump demands injunction bonds. Whenever someone files a case against him, they need to actually put up a bond. Shipper, CMA announces $20 billion investment in America. Trump has an executive order announcing strategic Bitcoin reserve from Bitcoin the government already has. Okay. Al Green censured by the House for his behavior at the State of the Union. Perkins Coie law firm clearances are revoked. And there's a MAGA hiring blacklist circling, which is it's illegal, okay, to say the least. All right, so March the 7th, 2025, this is Friday. Plurality of voters say Dems have no strategy. Federal government employment declines by 10,000 in February. It's the first time in 15 months that American workers increase, because the numbers come out today. It's the first Friday of the month. The DHS ends TSA collective bargaining. DHS ends TSA collective bargaining because there are more union workers in a TSA than screeners. Eclipse fear-mongering is unsubstantiated, in my opinion. Dwayne Wiggins of Tony dies. Rest in peace to that brother. Trump org files debanking lawsuit against Capital One. Starlink is installed on American Airlines. It's a 2-year anniversary of Unbinding the Holy Spirit, which is over on my spiritual channel. 10% of TV ads are pharmaceutical, which is not good. DC U.S. Attorney will defend the blue. He puts out a memo. His name is Ed Martin. He's a good guy. Kennedy, the NIH, CDC, and FDA are all against the bird flu jab. So we're not going to have a bird flu jab, which is good. Black men against YNs in Little Ronnie and his 5-year-old daughter shooting in Houston. A lot of black men come out and say what these individuals did that took out this young man, Lil Ronnie, and his 5-year-old daughter was unacceptable. And they are leading the cause, which is good. The community is not cooked. Arkansas has a law not recognizing Canada or Mexico commercials driver's license, and you have to speak English. Syria massacre goes viral. We don't exactly know what's going on, okay? There's a huge sun CME that happens on this day. China imposes 100% tariffs on Canada, and that's basically to tell them, you better keep this fentanyl trade going. So Canada is stuck between a rock and a hard place. The American Bar Association gets challenged, which is good. We're not allowed to have bar associations in this country. And certainly, people who are bar associated are not supposed to be in office at all. This is a part of the 13th Amendment that nobody seems to understand is in there. They've got copies of the 13th Amendment that say no bar association members, and yet it's never been actually accepted. So now you have the members in the administration going after the Bar Association, which is long, long, long overdue. Dang, that's weird. All right. Trump ends aid to South Africa over genocide. The Boers are being genocided in South Africa, and their lands being taken, and all kinds of stuff. And so Trump ends the aid, and he also offers those individuals that have been subjected to terrorism by the South African government to come to America. All right, 400 million from Columbia University is canceled in federal grants because of their pro-Hamas protests. There's also a crypto summit at the White House. Doechii lets down the community. I'm not going to talk about it. Just she let down the community a lot with her comments on men. AOC deputy comm director self-deports, meaning she's paying $80,000 to an individual who wasn't illegal. Maxine Waters is called out over her USAID money. FDA nominee to remove toxic chemicals from food. I say that Vance's face is literally uniquely human, okay? He's got a very human face. That's why it's so memeable. The memes are still flying. All right, Saturday, March 8th, 2025. The feminist movement was for white women, not for black women. We don't have nothing to do with that feminist movement, okay? Occultists use moon descriptions for Saturn. Very important. House Gnome uses ChatGPT to attract voters. And when I say House Gnome, she looks like Gargamel. She's got the purple hair. She's saying like Skibbity and Riz, and it just sounds like ChatGPT wrote it, okay? ActBlue is funding the Tesla protests, allegedly. Southern University bans all fraternities and sororities, which is a good move. Protesters attack Vance and his daughter while they're out buying coffee, which is crazy. Mexico is dumping into the Tijuana River. Jesus' death to resurrection is 33 hours. That'll be a video over on my spiritual channel. Real can replicate. Like, if it's real, it can naturally replicate. Fake stuff can't, okay? The United States Capitol Police allows guns on the Capitol grounds. So there was individuals with guns on the Capitol grounds when Trump gave his speech, which is no. It's a no. You're not supposed to do that, okay? All right, last day, Sunday, March 9th, 2025. This is daylight saving, so we have indeed skipped ahead an hour. And the first thing I will say about that is people are really upset, okay? Ukraine is using terribly without U.S. intelligence. America is not Babylon. America is not Babylon. America is not Babylon. So all of you people who follow the rapturology, America's not Babylon. You have to redo your calculations. America's not Babylon. Secret Service shoots a person with a gun at the White House. This is why this whole gun thing at the Capitol is really bad. I talk about the truth about daylight retrograde, which is really it's daylight retrograde. Now we're in daylight direct. Okay. Jeffrey Osborne, who is another black musician, his wife passes away, sadly. The Department of Education has a $280 billion budget, and less than 25% goes to educating students. So 75% of the Department of Education's budget goes to consultants. Unacceptable. All right. Without Starlink, Ukraine has no internet, and Musk, says, you should say thank you. Again, Biden admin making mortgage payments for 1 million homeowners in default. Listen one more time. The Biden administration was making mortgage payments for 1 million homeowners that were in default. All right, federal employees' credit cards are set to a $1 limit. It takes 8 minutes and 19 seconds for light to travel to the Earth. Significant numbers in that. The DNC vice chair, which is that Hug guy, calls voters low information voters. Bad. 2 times in 48 hours, F-16 fighter jets had to defend Mar-a-Lago from air things in the Mar-a-Lago airspace, which they know they're not supposed to do, especially when Trump is there. One of the things Stacey Abrams was doing with that cash from a few days ago we were talking about was to buy votes. Obviously, Hillary Clinton thinks Bitcoin could destabilize nations. Of course, she would know that. There's another plane crash in Manheim Township, Pennsylvania. Horrific. I make the statement that eggs are the toilet paper of 2025. Maxine Waters is forced to face deposition in the Joe Collins case. Joe Collins, if you don't know, was a black Republican who was running against Maxine Waters, and he has a lawsuit against her for some alleged fraud that she did in the race when they were running, and now she's gonna have to come to it for a deposition. All right. This guy Carney is going to replace Trudeau as prime minister, and Carney was a former Bank of England guy, so there's this whole Syria Christian murder psyop going on. They're saying it's Christians being murdered in Syria, but is it Christians being murdered in Syria? Because I saw an Orthodox priest come out and say that it wasn't Christians being murdered. So they always try to use the murder of Orthodox Christians to start their little stuff that they got going on, which is crazy. And Chris Murphy, who is a senator, he's the head of the Ukraine wing of the Senate. He leaves his wife, Ukraine caucus is what I call it. He leaves his wife for a Democratic publisher. So that's the news. This went way longer than normal. I think I did too much talking, but it's really important to get this stuff out there. Of course, again, we have the long format, the Don't Miss It podcast that's over on the MariKaNa News Network YouTube channel, of course, my spiritual channel, Sophia Spiritualite on YouTube, and some of the stuff I put here if it's not too long. So peace and blessings to each one of you all, and of course, we'll see you in the next video.